Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Dan Bennett, the Antipreneur, and in this episode, I will be breaking down all the things you'll need to start an awesome podcast in 2021 with Buzzsprout, and revealing a cool bonus if you stick around to the end of the video. Whether you know it or not, I have a podcast, and I'm coming up on 50 episodes of the Antipreneur Show podcast. There is no way I would have made it this far without today's sponsor, Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is a super user-friendly podcast hosting platform, and it's really the best way to publish your podcast. If you're going to put all that hard work and time and effort into making a great podcast, well, don't you want to publish it with one of the best? Buzzsprout reached out to me and asked me to make this video so you can take your podcast idea and actually make it happen. And of course I said yes, because I already love using Buzzsprout and I want to share all that information with you guys. I want to encourage you that you can do this. I produce my entire show from concept to launch from right here in this small office. Now, to launch a podcast on your own is no easy feat. Simple yes, easy no. You'll have to put in some work. So to help you compartmentalize that work, we'll break this episode into chapters. The first chapter is design. I will not be spending a lot of time here because if you want to start an awesome podcast, you should probably have this part figured out already. But I still want to quickly hit on some of these things because if you don't have this figured out yet, you can always go and work on it and then come back to this video. Okay, first in designing your podcast is your show name. Now again, we aren't deep diving into the design of your podcast, but if you don't have a show name, you really can't move forward. The Antipreneur Show was a no-brainer for me because I already used the Antipreneur as a moniker for my content, and when it came time to launch a podcast, it just made sense to call it the Antipreneur Show. Next up is your topic. Speaking about topics, you should definitely have nailed that down before you spend any money producing a podcast. Now, we talked about your show name previously, and maybe your name might need to be representative of the topic you plan to talk about. Maybe your show name is Talking Tacos with Terry or Gym Coaches Unite. No matter how you do it, having your name and topic figured out ahead of time is key. Okay, now let's quickly talk format. This generally comes down to one or two simple things. Is the show long or short? And is it solo or interview style? Just remember that there are no hard and fast rules in podcasting. Again, this is something you should have locked down before you ever start producing a podcast. I actually have a hybrid type podcast where some episodes are just me talking about a topic and they're really short, and some are longer and have guests and interviews included. The last thing I want to hit on when it comes to the design of your podcast is your thumbnail. This will be the first thing people see when they visit your podcast on any podcast platform. As you can see, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or even on your website, your thumbnail will represent your show and your brand every time people listen. Your thumbnail will include two elements of design right inside of it: branding and color palette. Using my thumbnail as an example, you can see that I have a color palette of monochromatic grays and the Antipreneur orange, as well as a font that behaves as a logo. Again, I quickly scanned over these design elements, so feel free to click up here to watch a video that breaks these topics down and provides you awesome tools to help you figure out the design of your show. Next up is equipment. Now, this can very quickly seem daunting and difficult. I want to reassure you by repeating my earlier sentiment that it is simple but hard. Keep that in mind. The process is simple, but there's a learning curve, and you have to make peace with that if you ever plan on getting over the hurdles between you and launching an awesome podcast. It is totally doable, and I'm here to help you. We will be talking bare minimum equipment to get started. The first thing you need is a microphone. I personally recommend the Blue Yeti USB microphone to all of my podcasting clients. They're great quality, relatively affordable, and the most important part is that USB part that I mentioned. A microphone being USB means that you can open it up, plug it into your computer, and start recording. Now, a lot of people do not like the Blue Yeti microphone because it's a condenser microphone, and they prefer a dynamic microphone. A condenser microphone picks up the subtle nuances in the human voice, but it can also pick up some of the nuances of background noise as well, which can be a problem if you're in a really naturally noisy environment. A dynamic microphone is more directional and picks up your voice while helping to knock out some of that background noise. A great example of this is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100X USB microphone. That's a mouthful. In simple terms, it's a USB dynamic microphone. This really all comes down to preference, and like I said earlier, I'm mainly concerned with your microphone being a USB microphone so you can just plug and play and get your show on the road. Remember, with all equipment, you can always upgrade it later. You will also need a computer. This is kind of self-explanatory, but I like to cover it because everything I'm showing you today is being done on a desktop computer. And you can use other devices to record and publish a podcast, but I'll be sticking to information about using a desktop or laptop to produce your show. A pair of headphones is highly recommended as well, though not absolutely necessary. If you're recording a solo podcast without any interruptions, you can record without wearing headphones. But at some point in time, you're going to want to listen back to your recording and probably edit your recording using some audio software, and headphones will become invaluable at that point. Also, if you interview guests using video conference software like Google Meet or Zoom, you'll want to use headphones so your guest's audio doesn't come in through your speakers and then bleed back through your microphone into the recording. Trust me, you don't want that to happen. You don't have to spend a ton on headphones, even earbuds will work, but keep in mind that you get what you pay for. Finally, you will need a recording device. I absolutely recommend using a recording device to capture all of your audio. I use a Zoom H6 for all of my professional audio recording needs. I'm using it right now to capture this audio for this video. That being said, you absolutely can record directly from your microphone to a computer and capture that recording using audio software. This eliminates the need for a recording device, but it also tethers you to a computer. And it doesn't give you the freedom to record anytime, anywhere, or the ability to record multiple people in one location. So if it's in the budget, an audio recording device like the Zoom H6 is highly recommended. All right, chapter 3 is all about production. And we are going to spend a little bit of time here because, well, if you can't produce your show, no one's ever going to hear it. We have a microphone in place, we have an audio recorder. Now what are we going to say? Well, here's an example of a document that I use all the time to develop my show topic ideas. As I develop them, I also add in talking points and references I want to talk about during the show. Now here's a pro tip. This is also super helpful when I do have the occasional guest on the show for an interview because it keeps me on track and reminds me of certain key points that I want to bring up with my guest. I view a great interview a lot like playing tennis. Set your guest up with great shots, let them do what they do, and showcase their talents. This type of show outline helps me do just that. Now we have our episode title and talking points ready, and it's time to actually record our show. Now here's a quick side note. I will be covering audio recording software in this chapter. Audio software is critical if you're wanting to produce a high quality podcast. There's a ton of options when it comes to audio software, and I want to mention just a couple free software choices before I get into my preferred audio software. The first I want to mention is GarageBand because it comes preloaded on Apple computers and it's really straightforward, so there are tons of tutorials online to learn the basics. Next is Audacity. Audacity is open source free audio recording software that you can download for Windows-based systems, so that'll cover all the PC people out there. It's really popular, especially with podcasters, so again, there's a ton of resources on the internet that can help you get started. I have links to both in the description below, as well as a link to the Buzzsprout Facebook community. That place is awesome. It is full of people who are doing the same thing you are. Some are further down the road and are really willing to help you in your podcast journey. Previously in the equipment chapter of this episode, I mentioned recording to an audio recording device and or recording to your computer directly using audio recording software. Now I want to quickly show you what both of these look like in my preferred audio software, which is Adobe Audition. This may look a little different than the one that you end up using, but the principles remain the same. All right, now first, if you recorded onto an audio recording device, you're going to want to remove the memory card from that device and plug it into your computer. Now from within the audio software, I can import that clip from the memory card directly into the timeline and begin my edit. Secondly, if I want to record my audio directly into my audio software, I can arm my track for recording and then hit record in the audio software and begin my show. I will play that back for you so you can hear what we just recorded, and then hit record in the audio software and begin my show. Now I will save that recording out as an MP3 file so we can upload it to Buzzsprout. Alright, if you like this kind of episode, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you never miss an episode, and if you're feeling really giving, go ahead and give this video a like, and maybe share it with someone you think might like it too. Alright, let's get into the part that we're all here to talk about, and that is Buzzsprout and how they help us host and distribute our podcast into the world. Now, the first thing that I want to share is in this section, I will cover a lot of the cool features that Buzzsprout offers and some of the reasons that I absolutely love it, but I will not be going step by step in showing you exactly how to set up and upload your show. If you want any help in that department, leave a comment down below or click right up here to see an awesome video about uploading your shows to Buzzsprout. Alright, I've logged into my Buzzsprout account and I'm going to show you some of the awesome features of the platform. The first thing that blew me away back when I switched to Buzzsprout from another not so great hosting platform was just how user-friendly the website is. Everything you need to do to upload and launch a podcast is right there at your fingertips, clearly displayed on the dashboard. Let's start with just how simple it is to upload that file that we saved earlier and get it ready to launch. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is hit the Upload a New Episode button to get started. Now, you can either drag in your episode like this, or you can hit the Choose a File to Upload button and navigate to the folder that has your episode in it and select it to upload. Now, while your episode is uploading, you can fill in the episode details like your episode title. We're just going to use test episode. Your episode description. This is a test episode and will not actually go out to the public. Here is one bullet point about the show, and here is a second bullet point about this episode. And here is my affiliate link, which will give people a $20 gift card from Amazon if they sign up for Buzzsprout today. Oh yeah, remember earlier when I said stick around until more towards the end of the video and we'll have a bonus? Well, it's bonus time. If you're ready to launch your podcast and get your show out into the wild, go ahead and click the Buzzsprout link in the description below. And guess what? Buzzsprout will give you a $20 Amazon gift card when you sign up for their hosting. Pretty cool, right? All right, let's get back to the walkthrough. Now, since this is a test episode, I'm going to leave this episode unpublished, but in the same area, we have the ability to publish immediately, or my favorite option, you can schedule your show to go out on a specific date and at a specific time. That allows me to get ahead of my release schedule and get some episodes in the can, or finished and ready to go ahead of time. Remember earlier when we talked about your artwork or thumbnail? Well, I have default artwork here and it's ready to go because I've already set that up. If I had a special thumbnail for this episode, I would click here to choose custom artwork and upload my special thumbnail. We can dedicate the season number and episode number here if that's part of your show. I'm just going to leave it blank since this is just a test. You can mark episode type, and if you have explicit language in your podcast, make sure to mark it here. Apple Podcast is not like if you have explicit content in your show and you leave this unmarked. Now we will save our episode and move on. The next thing I want to highlight is directories. This to me is one of the most powerful aspects of Buzzsprout, especially for those who are new to podcasting. Your show exists on Buzzsprout as what is called an RSS feed, which stands for Real Simple Syndication. That feed is then sent out to all the other platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more recently, Amazon Podcasts. Signing up on all these different platforms is a huge pain in the neck, but Buzzsprout makes it really easy so that you don't even have to leave your dashboard to submit your show to all the major platforms. It's literally just a one-click submission process. Okay, you've uploaded your show, submitted your show to all the major platforms, and now you want to see how you're doing. Let's take a quick look at stats. Here you have an overview of your podcast and you can keep track of how it's growing over time. You can look at the last week, last month, last year, or even pull up all-time stats. I love that you can go into an individual episode and see how it did when you launched and which platforms it performed well on. You can see what kinds of devices people use to listen to your podcast and even where people are located who listen to your podcast. There's even a map that shows a visual representation of where listeners are located. I mean, that's pretty cool. I also want to quickly highlight the achievements section. These milestones are really important to help you keep going and keep your goals in focus. Also, Buzzsprout sends you emails with these sorts of badges inside of them so you can easily share your milestones with your audience on social media. Speaking of social media, I also want to show you the soundbite option that Buzzsprout provides for its users. Let's go back to my latest episode and click on the Create Visual Soundbite link over here. That takes us to the page where we can grab a snippet of our show. 30 seconds is pretty good. We will start at 2 minutes and 18 seconds and hit the Sounds Good Continue button. You can change your colors to match your brand as well. I will change this Buzzsprout green to Anti-Preneur Show orange. Change the title for this snippet and hit create my soundbite, and Buzzsprout will now do all of the work to create your soundbite. After a few minutes, your soundbite is ready to download. So as you can see, Buzzsprout is more than just a podcast hosting company. They're essentially a podcast marketing partner as well. Now let's look at the players. These are really cool because not only can you brand them to your colors and your artwork, you can embed them into your website or blog. It's really powerful to be able to give your audience a place where they can go and listen to your podcast right on your website. And speaking of website, if you don't have one, that's okay too, because of course, Buzzsprout creates a dedicated web page for you that you can share with anybody, anywhere. They give you a URL just for your show. Mine is antipreneur.buzzsprout.com, and they allow you to customize to your brand in your colors. Here's a preview of my page for desktop and a preview for mobile. And here is my actual webpage that Buzzsprout provides to me just for being a user. It's almost like they've thought of literally everything. My artwork, my brand colors, my social media links, previous episodes, and every platform you can find my show on. Everything. And next I want to show you the help link. Buzzsprout really cares about making sure that your show is a success by offering dedicated help. You can send an email to Buzzsprout and someone who is US based and in the podcasting industry will actually reach back out to you and help. And like I mentioned earlier, they have a ton of great resources as well, such as a great Facebook group that's full of members and professionals who are super helpful and somewhere along the podcasting journey themselves, including me. A great blog section on their website under resources with tons of helpful blogs about podcasting basics, editing, guides, marketing, monetization, news, recording, and even more. Everything you need to know about how to make your show the best it can be. Okay, as you can see, Buzzsprout is an amazing podcast hosting platform that offers tons of tools and resources to help you have a successful podcast. But more importantly, they make it super simple to get your podcast uploaded, branded, submitted to all the major platforms, and out into the wild for your audience to find and enjoy. So to wrap up, let's recap this episode quickly, and I want to also reiterate that I help people and clients with every aspect of podcast production. And you can contact me for help if you ever need it. So we talked about the design or look and feel of your podcast and podcast branding. We covered basic gear needed to record a great podcast and software to edit your podcast after you've recorded it. We really focused on Buzzsprout and the hosting and distribution part of getting your podcast out into the world. Oh, and I guess this would be a great spot to remind everyone that I myself have a podcast called the Anti-Preneur Show Podcast, and all the information to check that out is in the description below. All right, remember everyone, this was an overview to help you get started, and we weren't able to deep dive into every single topic. Now, if there's some portion of the podcasting process you would love to know more about, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I read them all. Again, if you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe to this channel and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. Also, here's a couple great videos that do dive a little bit deeper into a couple of the topics that we covered today. My name's Dan Bennett, the Antipreneur, and I'll see you on the other side.